Welcome to my analysis and review of I'm Thinking of Ending Things. The film is directed by Charlie Kaupfman, and the lead roles in this film are played by Jessie Buckley and Jesse Plemons. This video has some pretty major spoilers, so if you want to watch the film and interpret it for yourself, I recommend checking it out on Netflix first before watching the video. I'm Thinking of Ending Things is a story about an imaginary couple on a road trip that is the byproduct of a janitor's daydream. Jake represents a younger version of the janitor himself, while the woman's identity is based on a woman James briefly encountered in a bar decades ago. The story is explored through the female's perspective. He's imagining what it would have been like to bring home a woman he failed to impress. Jake is an unfulfilled artist. In the film, he's a landscape artist, but this is one of the aspects in which the film and the book begin to differ. The book is meant to be a recollection of notebooks that are found after Jake's suicide. The road trip is the story written in those notebooks. The janitor is also slightly different in the novel. He is a gifted biochemist working at a lab until a mental illness causes a mental breakdown. Jake then moves in with his parents and gets a full-time job at his old high school as a janitor. 30 years pass, and instead he begins to suffer from a crippling depression that ultimately leads him to suicide. In Charlie Kaupfman's adaptation of the film, however, this doesn't seem to be the case. Pay attention to the badge on Jake's chest in this scene. It says diligence, and it was originally acuity, which means the ability to hear, see, or think accurately and clearly. Diligence, on the other hand, is the quality of working carefully and with a lot of effort. This wasn't Kaufman's only alteration. While he occasionally parrots the book word for word, lines like these were intentional additions.
The luck of the draw, really. The genetic lottery, as they say. But to do as well as Jake did with no special talent or abilities, that's much more impressive.
Or how about this new monologue from Jesse Plemons, the actor playing Jake?
It's despicable how we label people and categorize them and dismiss them. I look at the kids I see at school every day. I see the ones who are ostracized, they're different, they're out of step, and I see the lives they'll have because of it. Sometimes I see them years later in town at the supermarket. I can tell that they still carry that stuff around with them. Like a black aura, like a millstone, like an oozing wound.
They still carry it around with them? How about you do, Jake? The book seemed to be more about a life derailed by depression and mental illness. Jake was an accomplished biochemist who lost his footing and never fulfilled his passion for writing, which resulted in a suicide journal. The movie adaptation, however, tells a story of mediocrity. Jake is diligent, a hard worker who is not particularly gifted at anything. An unfulfilled landscape artist carrying around baggage from high school like a black aura. This film reminds me of Catcher in the Rye in the sense that the narrator is unreliable and the themes revolve around adolescence. Both the movie and novel are narrated by Jake's imagined hypothetical girlfriend. In the novel, she is nameless. However, in Kaufman's adaptation, her name and background change frequently.
Yeah, fine.
Oh, so glad to meet you, Louisa. Oh, Jake has told us so much about you. Jake tells us you're a painter.
Yes, Jake tells you correctly.
Jake tells me you're studying quantum psychics at the university.
Yes.
So Lucia is studying gerontology.
I believe that this is meant to show us that she's not just a fictional character, but that in the film she can be seen as any of the different women Jake could have dated in various points of his life. If you pay close attention, her clothes even change from scene to scene. Those aren't even all the clues that Kaufman leads us. Check out this scene.
Hey, who is this?
You can't tell.
No.
It's me.
No, it was me.
Those creepy phone calls are also a new addition and hint at Jake's suicidal feelings.
There's only one question to resolve. I'm scared. I feel a little crazy here, not lucid. The assumptions are right. I can feel my fear growing. Now is the time for the answer. Just one question to answer.
The question should be obvious, but it's whether or not life is worth living. Another obvious reminder is that Jake and the janitor are the same person, and Jake may not even be real, but just a representation of the janitor's younger self who made different choices. In the novel, it isn't until the very end of the story that Jake gains awareness of his past self. However, in the film, I don't believe this is true. Check out this line from 10 minutes into the film.
From Oklahoma, the musical.
I didn't know you were a fan of musical theater.
Well, I'm not really. They do it every few years for obvious reasons.
Wait, who does it every few years?
He seems to have some of the janitor's memories. But what's interesting is how clearly he dislikes the janitor's existence.
There was someone watching us?
I didn't see anyone.
Well, he was watching us like a goddamn pervert.
Let's go.
Believe me, I'm very familiar with that particular. I'm going to give him a piece of my mind.
Jake, don't be ridiculous.
Not acceptable.
Jake, let's just go.
No.
You don't-
I'll be right back. This. Acceptable. This is unacceptable!
One of the final differences between the novel and the film are the numerous Oklahoma references. The book doesn't even reference musicals, while the film is even set in Oklahoma for dramatic effect. It seems that the high school runs repeat performances of the musical in which Jake took part. In Kaufman's adaptation, this causes his daydream to be an Oklahoma-induced nightmare featuring ballet sequences and songs directly from the show. In the ballet sequence, we see a fictional battle between Jake's idealized self who has attained fulfillment and the janitor, a symbol for his old age murdering his youthful hopes.
I'm your favorite clown from Tulsi Town, where ice cream grows on trees. So have no fear, come and join me here, and eat as much as you please. I will turn your frown fully upside down when you take your very first bite of vanilla, chocolate, or strawberry. We are open day and night.
Tulsi Town is essentially Dairy Queen, and Jake's final dream sequence draws heavy inspiration from an old Dairy Queen ad made for drive-in theaters.
Now listen, now listen, now listen. I'm the Dairy Queen, won't you come with me along the milkshake way? I've got lots of good surprises, fresh and yummy for you every day. There are malts and shakes and sundaes too, whenever you stop. And of course your very, very favorite, the cone with the car.
James states that people carry around baggage from high school like an oozing wound, and it becomes really clear what he means in this scene.
Can I help you, sir?
Same.
Yeah, 2 of those, please.
2 sames.
These are the same girls from Jake's high school, and this girl is clearly treated harshly by the girls, as we see from her blatant criticism.
You're kind. You're not like them. Vapid and mean and pretty.
Thanks a lot.
I didn't mean it like that. I love the way you look. You have a kindness, and of course you're very attractive. I didn't mean it like
It's okay.
that.
I understand.
It's just there seems to be a certain hardness that comes with a certain kind of pretty. You don't have that. Maybe they suffer too, the pretty ones. I don't know. Maybe their prettiness causes them suffering. Not a psychiatrist.
This movie has an abundance of references. Remember that Jake's girlfriend is fictional. Therefore, she takes on the identity of various artists throughout the film. Check out this quote from Oscar Wilde.
Most people are other people. Their thoughts are someone else's opinions. Their lives a mimicry, their passions a quotation. That's an Oscar Wilde quote.
Or how about the poem which opens the film, which she later finds in Jake's bedroom, written by Ava H.D.
It's called Bone Dog. Coming home is terrible. Whether the dogs lick your face or not. Whether you have a wife or just a wife-shaped loneliness waiting for you. You come back with X-ray vision. Your eyes have become a hunger. You come home with your mutant gifts to a house of bone. Everything you see now, all of it, bone.
The landscape paintings done by Jake are actually the work of Ralph Albert Blakelock. And when our unnamed female protagonist briefly becomes a movie critic, she's straight up quoting Pauline Kael's review of Woman Under the Influence.
A flirtatious beauty into sad, sagging neighborhood drunk. Roland's externalizes schizophrenic dissolution. Mabel fragments before your eyes. A 3-ring circus might be taking place in her face. Roland's performance is enough for half a dozen tour de forces, a whole row of Oscars. It's exhausting. Conceivably, she is a great actress, but nothing she does is memorable because she does so much.
At one point in the film, she even claims to be a virologist. It honestly seems like the entire conception of her being is based on the Wordsworth poem, leading many to believe she's actually named Lucy.
Incidentally, Wordsworth wrote a series of poems to a woman named Lucy.
Like me.
A beautiful, idealized woman.
That's not all. It turns out the final speech is actually a shot-for-shot reference of A Beautiful Mind.
Thank you.
My quest has taken me to the physical,
metaphysical,
the metaphysical,
delusional,
the delusional.
And I have made the most important discovery.
And I have made the most
of my
important discovery
career.
of my career.
Most important discovery of my life.
The most important discovery of my life.
It is only in the mysterious equations
It is only in the
of love.
mysterious equations of love that any logical reasons can be found.
Any logical reasons can be found.
So, the book doesn't reference Oklahoma or A Beautiful Mind, and our female protagonist has some additional identities. But we're done comparing the book and the film. It's time for me to give my personal review.
Now let's see. Where was I?
So, after creating this video, I understand a lot more of what the film was trying to say. That being said, on my first watch through, I was completely lost.
He did?
He did what?
Went that way.
Who did?
The white rabbit.
What rabbit?
But didn't you just say? Oh dear.
While I understand that the film is meant to be complex and open to interpretation, it feels like watching a fever dream. There's an air of suspense and horror throughout the film that makes it feel like a thriller. I'm embarrassed to admit it, but on my first watch through, I honestly thought that they were trying to reprogram the girlfriend into some kind of slave.
I should end this. Just end it. I just make a clean break. No lingering. No waiting for things
If you
to get
notice,
better.
when she's first walking down the stairs, she's trying to break up with Jake. But by the time she gets to the bottom, she's saying her whole purpose in life is to make him happy and
My
fulfilled.
emotional state is bouncing all over the place. Jake needs to see me as someone who sees him. He needs to be seen, and he needs to be seen with approval. Like that's my purpose in all this, in life, to approve of Jake, to keep him going.
I thought that perhaps the family was attempting to hypnotize her. I thought the dog and repeated sentences were audio cues. I was under the impression that Jake was changing her name in order to manipulate her.
Enjoy.
I was unnecessarily concerned about her being the only one drinking. And while I'm embarrassed to admit this in retrospect, I even toyed around with the idea of them being immortals.
You remember your 50th birthday?
20th?
What did I say?
50th?
Oh, goodness, where is my brain? Anyway, Jake would leave his head on the floor if it wasn't screwed onto his own head.
Sure. Where is it?
In the basement.
So what exactly are you saying to me?
I'm saying take the darn nightgown to the basement. Live dangerously.
In retrospect, I realize that this is Jake's entire life flashing before his eyes. It makes sense that his parents would bounce around through time because he's recollecting his entire life, deciding whether or not he should end it. So when we got to the basement and she starts finding the janitor's uniforms in the washing machine, I wasn't thinking, oh, Jake must be the janitor. I thought they were trying to turn her into the janitor. Or at the very least, that everyone in this family was some kind of time skipper and they didn't want to tell her. I spent so much time thinking about the bad things that were going to happen to her that I really had no idea she was fake. I vividly remember wishing she stole his car keys in this scene, or at the very least that she called 911. Honestly, why does she keep asking to go home if she doesn't exist? What is home exactly?
Agree.
I want to go.
What's the rush all of a sudden?
Sudden? I'm like a broken record all night, telling you that I want to go home. I've given you like 40 reasons why I need to get back tonight.
This film ended up feeling like a horror movie, and unfortunately that ended up including the acting. Though all of the actors did a fine job with their role, none of them stood out as exceptional. I found myself incredibly bored when watching the film. The actor playing Jake does a phenomenal job at being unrelatable. He has this whole bullied in high school background that's supposed to make us empathize with him. But I didn't. I empathized with the girl, and I wanted her to run away from him. I thought he was creepy, aggressive, manipulative, and while in retrospect this is likely what drove him to suicide, I feel like it's a good example of my overall problems with the narrative. I had no idea what was going on, and while surrealism is traditionally confusing and abstract, I feel that the viewer is being intentionally misdirected. I don't understand why they chose to make this film a thriller. And to be quite frank, I don't think they succeeded because I wasn't thrilled, I was bored. On a positive note, the cinematography and costumes are phenomenal. I was constantly staring at the walls and at the different shots because of how beautiful they were. But I don't really see how the superfluous references to artists in Oklahoma helped the film in any way. I feel like there's a difference between creating art and just making a bunch of references to art and calling it art. Like, for example, we were also subjected to ballet in Us. However, in Us, the ballet feels relevant to the story. While it does make complete sense that in Kaufman's adaptation of the film it would feature ballet, it feels forced, especially after finding out it was just an addition to the book. We had full poems being performed, and a superfluous slew of references. But rather than these helping us understand what was going on in the film, it was just like the director was adding new deep things to the film. Like, what's up with this whole bullied in high school message and the mediocrity thing? I understand that Kaufman likes to paint a picture that most people live unfulfilled lives that are passionless, but it feels like a lot of screen time that was used to add something additional to the film when I already didn't understand what the film was about. There's something odd about the female character being completely fictional, yet her having scenes where she's completely alone. Both the novel and the movie are told from her perspective, but I feel that they could have made it just a bit more obvious that she was a part of Jake. All in all, you might get it if you're smarter than me. I didn't really enjoy the film on my first watch through, but I can really understand that it might be better the second time around. That being said, after making this video, I'm not excited to watch it again. I wouldn't really recommend it to my friends. But if you enjoy art films, it is available on Netflix. I definitely think it's worth watching at least once. And I think it might be much more enjoyable if you understand what's going on before watching the film instead of after. Overall, I'm gonna give the film a 6.5 out of 10. I have a ton of respect for the director and what he's trying to do here, but I just don't think he executed it well. What do you think about the film? Do you agree with my review? Let me know in the comments below. We watched this film as part of our community event in Discord. If you want to watch some films with us, make sure you join. I really appreciate you taking the time to check out this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and to hit the bell under the video to make sure you get all the latest notifications for my channel.